You worked for the DEA?
Yes, the Drug Enforcement Administration for close to 23 years.
Wow. So you probably have some stories to tell.
Oh, yes. DEA is known as the Cowboys. And what we would do is like, okay, Jimmy, you're going to buy some dope today. You go out there and we will support you from afar, and you go out and do it.
They sent you to go buy drugs from the cartels undercover as a DEA agent.
Absolutely.
Hello, this is Justus Smith with Proverbs Media Group, and today I have a very special guest I'd like to introduce to you all, Miss Stacy Zinn.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So let's give the folks at home a little bit of an idea of who you are and what you've done in your career. You worked for the DEA?
Yes, the Drug Enforcement Administration for close to 23 years.
Wow, so you probably have some stories to tell.
Oh, yes, it's been, I had a blessed career. I was down on the southwest border for a while doing undercover work against the cartels, and I was selected for a tactical team where I did 4 tours in Afghanistan going after the narco-terrorists and also doing operations against the heroin labs and destroying them and building international investigations against them. And then I was fortunate to spend time in South America for about 5.5 years, and then I ran DEA Montana.
You helped destroy heroin labs?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes.
Give me a walkthrough of a day. What does that day look like where something like that happens?
Okay, so what you do is we would build out packages. We would get confidential source information of where the labs, heroin labs were. And normally they're in the mountain regions. Back in the earlier part of the war, we would build up an operation, plan it out several weeks ahead, team up with DOD or the Brits, and then we helicopter into the region about 2 miles away, hike up to the mountain regions. Once we found the labs, gather up the evidence, try to find out who the lab belonged to and stuff, lay out explosive devices, hustle down, detonate those devices, get back to the helicopter before being shot at, and then try to build the investigation from the evidence that we gathered.
What's some of the craziest or just darkest stuff you've seen in your tenure?
The darkest thing that I've seen is actually the 3-letter alphabet soups, agencies. When we're in the foreign arena, sometimes we don't play well together. And what was this very disheartening to see your sister agency or other Americans going against what we were trying to achieve. That was probably the darkest. Also, you see individuals like down in South America that are building their name and their fortunes off the drug trade, then getting their citizenship up here in America, and then running their operations up here on American soil, and no one knows the wiser. That's disheartening.
Wow. And you don't have to say what 3-letter agency it is, but we all know it's the CIA. And I'm sure there's some others playing, ball with them. But I understand even with Iran Contra, when the CIA essentially was trying to raise funds for weapons and the government wouldn't pay for it, they actually trained these Contras to sell drugs for them. And there's a long history of the CIA basically weaponizing different terrorist groups, even ones that, we shouldn't weaponize any terrorist group, but most of the time it's for whatever their tactical goal is. What do you think is the biggest problem today with the intelligence community and the way that it stands?
Today, we need to put America first. We need to put our missions first. We need to get back to that very basic. Instead of yo tengo mio, I have my section, I'm out to achieve this certain thing in this part of the world. No, we need to get back to integrity, morals, and we need to have a leader in place, which we do now, that is going to lead us. And he needs to direct what we should be doing domestically and internationally. We need to protect America from the outside in. We need to stop doing what, since 2012, what we've been seeing done is breaking America down from the outside in.
Wow. I like to call the intelligence communities and the Department of Defense's activities that are really smooth spook magic. Did you ever see any spook magic, like some James Bond level activity? Something that just went so smooth it could have went in a movie scene.
Now, see, I love the intelligence community. I love what's supposed to be. Yes, did I see some very interesting things out there? And, equipment, devices, operations, absolutely. And that's still at the security clearance level, which I can't speak of. We have some good people out there doing some really good work, but we have some leadership. Well, now we have hopefully good leadership that's being placed. But unfortunately, we had over 15 years of internal corruption where ideology has taken the place, instead of putting America first, it has taken the place of what they should be doing. So we need to clean that all up.
Wow. You know, the CIA is one of my favorite subjects, and I'm really interested in all the three-letter agencies.
Yes.
I understand in 1949, when the CIA was first formed, it had a positive intention. And I want to clarify to any spooks at home watching, I actually like you guys. Very interested. Please don't kill me. I think that 80% of you guys are patriots that want to make the country a better place. And there's that small bureaucratic handful of people that have been infiltrated or maybe even assigned to do things, because I understand the right hand doesn't know what the left hand does. It's very compartmentalized. It's very hard to have tabs on what everything is doing. It's about liability and plausible deniability, I understand.
Well, that's how we got 9/11. Communication broke down. We weren't supposed to be sharing information among the different agencies. I believe that was Janet Reno. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was during that era. So with that being said, is that agencies will lose their way. They'll lose their footing along the way. It takes a good leader to keep them back in state. But you look at in the 70s, the CIA was pretty much gutted back then. And did they ever fully recover from that? We do need the CIA. Do not get me wrong. We do need them. We need the old-fashioned boots on the ground, confidential sources, operators and stuff like that. We just got to get back to what our priorities are and what the bases are.
Absolutely.
It's very simple.
Yes. Do you have any concerns for the DEA as it stands today going forward, or do you feel more hope for that organization?
Well, we do have a new administrator that was just nominated this past week, and I know I've worked with him, and I feel confident that he's going to do the right thing. The problem with DEA is that we have been underfunded for so many years that we are lacking in updated resources. We need to strengthen our intel. Well, I keep saying we. DEA now needs to strengthen their intelligence agencies, their intel analysts again. We need to get back to what we used to do, again, like the CIA, boots on the ground, getting confidential sources, and we were the best of the best in the foreign arena. We had many offices throughout the world, and we were number one with our sources. That's how you do good investigations. That's how you get the bad actors in jail, and that's how you make the world a better place.
Right. Wow. Going back to one of the first things you said, I'm sorry I'm sticking on this. It's just so interesting to me. If you blow up a heroin lab, the fumes are going to go into the air. I assume you guys are at a far enough distance that you're not going to get hit with it.
That's correct.
But have you seen instances where agents, or maybe even yourself or someone around you, might have got hit with the heroin cloud?
No, because what it is like, imagine. Okay, so you're going up the mountain and you have the heroin labs tucked in. So when you go in, you see the containers and stuff of chemicals. You gather up samples and stuff, and then you lay out explosive devices. Then you hustle back down a good part of the ways away. Once you're at a fair distance, you detonate everything. Everything's going up, and you're already going the opposite direction. Now, look at meth houses. When we used to do raids, we go in through that front door, hit the house. There was always you worry about the explosive, the chemicals reacting when you're going through that front door. And then you're going in, and back in the early days, we didn't wear any type of face protection. So you're going in and you're inhaling those fumes. We learned the hard way that, we need to start putting on masks and stuff when you go through that front door. Fentanyl labs. You had the case out in New York, New Jersey type frame where you had a particular SWAT team go through that front door, not knowing it was a fentanyl lab, go in, inhale, boom, go down. Luckily, they didn't lose anyone during that raid and stuff like that. Now, that wasn't a DEA raid, that was a local raid. But you do have those instances when you're going through a place that's making the drugs and stuff of contamination.
Wow. I want to just keep asking about this, but I'm trying to...
Keep asking.
Okay. Have you ever dealt with someone on one of your operations that you felt might have been like a double agent or was like actually working for the other side and was sabotaging it? Because you mentioned where you've seen, I'm more curious about like that 3-letter agency that was kind of subverting your guys' attempts. As much as you can say without getting, in trouble.
Let's just say that I had an opportunity where we shared intelligence with a 3-letter agency. They knew what we were doing. They knew who our confidential source was. We ended up raiding a establishment which was linked to them, and we didn't know that going into it. Unfortunately, long story short, we didn't get any drugs. We got a lot of cash, crisp $100 bills, and our source was beheaded within 48 hours.
Is it ever tempting if you just raid someplace and find a bunch of cash, just like, pocket a stack or something?
Gosh. It's like, okay, law enforcement and money, we are trained so much that all the money has to be accounted for.
Oh.
If that money goes missing, and you go in twos or threes, you never go by yourself. But you see money, you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's paperwork, that's OPR investigation, that's, there's my career. Yeah, you don't see that at our level, or at least we didn't.
What do they do with the cash after they confiscate it?
Okay, so you confiscate the cash, you take it to the bank, it gets counted, and then it's confiscated unless someone can put a claim to it that it was legitimate resources.
Good luck with that.
Well, but it's been interesting that the asset forfeiture program under the Biden administration has been weakened, and that's not good for the locals. What we do is like if we have local law enforcement that assist us on, let's say, doing a stop on the interstate, we find a whole bunch of cash, we believe it's narcotics proceeds, then we turn it in, they get a percentage of that. Well, then it helps builds up their programs and stuff like that, because a lot of times these local police departments, they're not very well funded because it's tax dollars. So that when we seize that stuff, we help support our local law enforcement. During the Biden administration, they started cutting that and cutting that and cutting that.
Wow.
And that just hurts relationships also.
Wow. So I'm genuinely curious. This is fascinating to me. At one point when you were working on the border with the DEA, you had to be undercover. So did you ever have interactions with these cartels and had to like play as like a buyer, or how does that work? How do you go undercover? I don't know if that's revealing OPSEC or like giving away too much. I'm just so curious.
Well, DEA is known as the Cowboys. And what we would do is like, okay, Jimmy, you're going to buy some dope today. You go out there and we will support you from afar, and you go out and do it. So it's we throw our young to the wolves, and that's what I went through. And whereas the FBI does it a lot different. They go through specialized training. Basically, we go out there and you fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Stop me if I'm asking too much.
No.
They sent you to go buy drugs from the cartels undercover as a DEA agent.
Absolutely.
Okay, did you ever fail, or did you always get the stuff?
No. There has been a time where an individual, I'm negotiating and I'm stumbling through it, and he's seeing something, or his spider senses, doesn't feel right, and he's like, yeah, maybe next time.
Oh.
Now there's been times I was, successful. It's also about building relationships with these individuals.
Wow. How much do they ask you to buy?
It depends on the organization. With the organization, you can't buy too much.
Yeah, because it'll look sketch.
Like, and you can't buy so little that doesn't catch your attention. There's that sweet spot.
Oh, there's a threshold.
There's a threshold here.
Okay.
Yes.
You can't go in and ask for 1,000 kilos.
No.
But you can't go in and ask for...
No, because they're like, okay, who's that gal? Where does she come from? We're going to do a background check. No.
Sure. That's
which
so
they do. They'll
interesting. Do. Well, has it ever gotten dangerous in that setting?
Yes. Well, it's a time when maybe your surveillance has lost you, and you're driving towards that border, and you're like, and you're with the drug dealer, and you're by yourself in the car. You're going, is he taking me across to Mexico? What's happening? Where's my surveillance? I don't see them behind me. So you go through that, or you go. There's instances where there's things that we do, and there's things we're not supposed to do. But a lot of times when agents get into that, they push the envelope to make that deal. And sometimes that's where we get tripped up, where you get into a tricky situation where all of a sudden there's a lot more of them than there is you. And if they have that sneaky suspicion that you are an undercover cop, they're gonna put the test to you.
if they find out you're undercover, do you think that's like you could die, or do they just get you out of there? Because I understand they're very reluctant to kill a DEA agent. At least they should be.
It's been look at back in 1985 with Kiki Camarena. He was one of the first ones that was tortured and killed. That's why we have Red Ribbon Week. After they did that, the wrath of the U.S. came down on Mexico.
Yeah.
And that really changed things. Well, what happened was, okay, so you look at the cartels. The cartels is like was like a big company. And
Yeah.
They had the federation. We started picking off each of the heads of the federation. We started splintering the cartels, which then you had up-and-coming youngsters coming up. Well, a lot of people have forgotten about Kiki Camarena and what took place. So you have these up-and-coming that don't know any better, and they're out to make a name. And they will then start surveilling agents or surveilling law enforcement. They will try to make them an example unless you got some older ones saying, oh, no, 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 no. So we're right now, we're at that fine line where the cartels are going to push back because they don't know any better and because they want to be shown as powerful and ruthless. It's going to be interesting to see what happens from this point on with the cartels, especially now that they're labeled a terrorist organization, thank goodness, because they are a very, very cruel and corrupt group of organizations.
Wow. In these transactions, undercover, when you're dealing with these cartel individuals, what is the agency's stance on, well, I understand more than likely you'd probably have to go in acting as a buyer and not a user.
It depends.
It depends, okay.
Yes.
Now, if you're a user and they get a fishy feeling, does the agency say, go ahead and take the drugs in front of them if they tell you need to like take a hit of this in front of us?
No. And because, well, especially like nowadays, you look at the cocaine that's going to be sometimes laced with fentanyl. So you don't know what you're getting. What you try to do is not getting to that scenario, but sometimes you have to fake it to make it again. And there's some tricks of the trade that you can do, but we are not supposed to be participating in the drug use.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I might be pushing it too far, but I'm just having fun with this.
Okay.
Imagine I'm a cartel person,
Okay.
and you're undercover, and you're trying to get drugs from me.
Okay.
How would you start this interaction?
Oh. Well, see, first of all, I'm going to know a lot more about you than you do about me.
Yeah.
I'm going to know your circle. I'm going to know what you're about. I'm going to know your weaknesses, your strengths, and then I'm going to look for how I can finagle in.
Oh, so it's always customized to the person. So without the prior intel, that makes so much sense. You
Correct.
guys go in ready. You know who your target
Correct.
is. You know what their weak point is.
Correct.
This is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I mean, you have such an interesting life, and also God bless you and thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
You are so brave. You know, I'm a 6'5" guy. I'm not going to go out here and do this. So the fact that you had the bravado to do this, it tells me so much about your spirit.
Oh,
You're a
thank
strong
you.
woman. Wow, wow, and wow. I'm just kind of, this doesn't happen to me, but I'm kind of like taken aback right now. This is really impressive.
Well, thank you, and thank you for just asking these questions, because it's the public. It's good to educate the public so
Yes.
they have an understanding where their tax dollars have been going.
Yeah.
And especially now with the cartels being in the media, they need to understand. The public needs to understand what the cartels are all about.
Yes.
Who is flooding our streets with the fentanyl? Where does it come from? It's not only the cartels. Then you go into the China side.
Yes.
All that, a whole can of worms. Then you look at Canada and who has the fentanyl labs up there and the stuff coming down. So it's not just one element. There's a lot of prongs that we have to take care of.
Wow. Yeah, I do understand that a lot of the precursor chemicals to making fentanyl in Mexico are coming from China. And to me, that seems kind of like a Cold War tactic, where rather than fighting us boots on the ground, they would rather fight this like subversion warfare where they're going to basically poison us with drugs. Because no matter what we do, I mean, this is an interesting thing. I'm curious what your stance is on this. What do we do about the war on drugs? Do we need to dial back? Do we need to punish them more? I think no matter what happens, people are going to get high on whatever it is that they want.
Sure.
And there's a little tricky blank area where you look at the prohibition of the 20s of alcohol. That created an underground market that actually made alcohol more dangerous by making it illegal. I imagine a world, call me crazy, what if we legalized meth and cocaine and heroin, but made it available at like Walmart, where it's being made in a legal lab. It has like a million warning labels on it, like bleach. It's like, don't drink bleach, but if you're gonna, like, that's your problem, you know? Where do we stand? How do we fix the war on drugs? Is it with the individual with treatment? Is it harsher punishment to the manufacturers? What do you picture with this?
Okay, so I do school presentations and I educate the public a lot about this. You look at Oregon and Washington and those areas where they have legalized small amounts of drugs.
Right.
Look what it has attracted. It's chaos.
It doesn't work.
You look at Canada where they do safe injection sites. What has that? We've seen 16-year-olds now going there to these safe injection sites. So that legalization, I believe, is not the answer. And why? Because it allows for more people to try it. The legalization of marijuana in different states. Those states, you see drug use among younger kids when their brains are still developing, starting to participate, because we basically said, hey, marijuana is like drinking a Coors Light. No, it's like drinking a Scotch on the rocks with the high THC levels. So if we legalize meth and fentanyl, that is going to be an issue because there's going to be more of that out there. During the Obama years, what happened was our sentencing guidelines went backwards. People weren't getting as much jail time. We weren't able to flip those individuals that went to jail, so therefore we didn't know who the leaders were. So law enforcement lost a lot of grounding. Drug cases weren't in the top 7 of the Obama administration. It was more civil crimes and stuff like that. So we lost our footing. When Trump came in after the Obama administration, we went back to Project Safe Neighborhoods and started focusing on the biggest and the baddest, because crime was going up and up and up. We stabilized it, but then Biden came in, and then it went right back to where it was. Trump comes in, we're going to have to dust off that playbook again and go after the biggest and baddest and start tempering back, start pushing back in the cartels, start educating the public about the dangers of drugs, start sentencing these people that deserve a harsher sentence, expand our prison system to a little bit because we have more nefarious people that's come in, and we need to start pushing back on the drug issue. But the thing is, it's basically educating and communicating, talking to these parents and talking to the kids. This is why it's dangerous. Just say that, just say no. Say no because it can kill me. One pill can kill. It can cause me to lose my monies, my home, my relationships. We need to have those communications again.
Wow.
Can you tell I'm passionate about that portion?
Yes. I mean, you've really opened my eyes about this. I've put a lot of thought into this, and I look at music today, for example. In the 80s and 90s with rap music, they would glorify the drug dealer. Today, they glorify the drug user. It has pivoted. And I don't know if this is a concerted effort or it's actually just the evolution of music. I'm not sure. I do think that the 3-letter agencies have a hand in promoting certain music and certain trends, especially certain drugs.
Right.
But wow.
No, it does come back to the educational piece.
Yes.
You have parents today that grew up on the marijuana. I'll use marijuana example because it's going to be a problem for the U.S. in the future.
Yes. With
mental health issues, schizophrenia, and bipolarism, yada yada. But the kids, my era, like a single joint had 1.2 to 2.3 THC levels. Fast forward today, in the state of Montana, that same joint has anywhere from 33 to 35% THC levels. Those concentrates, 80% THC levels. Those dab products, 90%. People are like going, what's the big deal? And it's like, that's a good question because we're not doing the studies here in the U.S. like we should versus in Europe they are. But we're starting to see more mental health issues with our young adults that their brains are not fully developing and they're putting in this harsh THC that's harming their brain. 10 years down the road, we'll figure out what happened and why and think, that's probably wasn't such a good idea. But that train's going down the track. We need to do something now, and it goes back to the educational piece, too.
I'm inspired by this. I mean, first off, thank you for being so transparent and open about these things. Thank you for allowing me to ask all these questions.
Absolutely.
I've learned so much. I could talk to you for another hour. I'll let you go back out to the world, but I am curious about a couple more things.
Sure.
Where do you is there, if any, is there an intersection between human trafficking and drug trafficking?
Yes.
Can you kind of describe that dynamic, or just from what you may have seen or experienced?
So, okay, we'll bounce back to the cartels because they are into the human trafficking also. Cartels are there to make money. whether it be sex crimes, human trafficking crimes, work labor crimes, drug crimes. But with the human trafficking and the drugs, it's a lot of times the same routes. Human trafficking, get them across the border, then maybe they turn into to sex trafficking. Meth is used with that. Fentanyl is used in that. Marijuana also is. So they really go hand in hand. Unfortunately, with the different agency stuff, we separate it out a lot. Like DEA is supposed to focus on the drug crimes and stuff. HSI is supposed to, and FBI is supposed to focus on the human trafficking crime. But they do intersect a lot. So that's why it's important for the agencies to all work together, share information, and not do the yo tango mio and hide the stuff.
All right, Miss Stacy, I have one final question for you.
Yes, sir.
If you could deliver a message to the entire world and they would all stop what they're doing and just listen to what you have to say, what would that message be?
To educate your loved ones, whether it be your kids, your grandkids, relatives, whatever. Because it is, I always, I cringe when I hear one pill can kill. But the fentanyl that is out there in America nowadays is causing that one chance that person tries that drug could be the last time. And so I encourage them to know what their family members are doing to protect their loved ones, and to circle back around to support the president and his next 4 years and what he's going to strive to achieve, because he's got he loves America, and we need to support this leader. Because it's in order for our survival, whether it's against the cartels and narco-terrorists, the terrorist organizations, we need to all come together as one.
Amen. Stacy Zinn, God bless you. Thank you for your service, and I hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.